Bibliographical Comments. This book has been an invitation to attend a certain party. In issuing such an invitation, it is not customary to include a full dossier on all the people that the putative guests will find at the party. All the same, the letter will want to know a little more about these people, or at least about where he can go to find out. It would be It would be preposterous to conclude this book with an enormous bibliography on the various branches of sociology touched upon in the text. However, some bibliographical information should be given to the reader who has been intrigued by the invitation, at least to the extent of wanting to look into the matter a little further. The purpose of these bibliographical comments is simply to suggest some points at which some further inquiry could profitably begin. Also, various names has been dropped in the text without much explanation. These comments will pick up these names and introduce them to the reader a little more fully. Obviously, it is up to the reader how far he wants to go in response to this invitation. He has already been warned that such an undertaking is not without risk. The interested reader should have little difficulty in obtaining the majority of the books referred to in the following bibliographical comments. Whenever possible, recent English publications have been cited. This and most of the American works referred to are obtainable at academic and general booksellers. A few of the older works are out of print but can generally be obtained at large public libraries. Concerning Chapter 1, unless the reader is a student, and perhaps even then, he may have a deeply rooted affection to the use of a textbook in approaching a new subject. Often enough, this affection is fully justified. There are notable exceptions, though. A classic textbook in sociology is Robert McIver, Sociology, Society, New York, Farrar and Reinhardt, 1937, still well worth reading. Among recent efforts in textbook composition, particular lucid ones are early Chinoy Society, New York, Random House, 1961, and Harry M. Johnson, Sociology, A Systematic Introduction, London, Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1961. Max Weber was one of the giants in the development of sociology, very much rooted in the intellectual milieu of Germany in his time, but with a continuing influence far beyond the frontiers of his native country. Weber's approach to sociology is especially characterized by its philosophical sophistication, its solid foundation in historical scholarship, and its staggering scope in terms of the numbers of cultures drawn into the various carefully argued analysis of Weber's opus. For an eloquent segment of Weber's conception of sociology as a scientific discipline, the reader may turn to the essay Science as a Vocation, found in an English translation in Edward S. Sills and Henry A. Finch, The Methodology of the Social Sciences, Chicago Free Press, 1949. In the same volume, will be found some other important formulations of Weber's understanding of scientific method. Max Weber, Basic Concept in Sociology, translated by H.P. Secher, London, Peter Owen, 1962, is a small but useful volume, an extremely value work dealing with Weber's empirical studies in Reinhard Bendix, Max Weber, an intellectual portrait, London, Heinemann, 1960. Alfred Sweats, 1899 until 1959, was a philosopher of the phenomenological school, was devoted most of his life work to the philosophical foundations of sociology as a science. Born in Austria, he left that country after its occupation by the Nazis and taught until his death at the New School for Social Research in New York. His influence on contemporary sociologists is as yet limited but undoubtedly grow as his growth becomes more accessible. A Dutch publisher, Martinus Nijhoff of The Hague, is now preparing a 3-volume English edition of Sweet's opus. Concerning Chapter 2, a concise statement of Albert Solomon's understanding of the historical origins of sociology in France can be found in his book The Tyranny of Progress, New York, Noonday Press, 1955. Paul Radin was an American anthropologist with a long list of works on primitive society. A good point at which to begin looking into this opus would be his Primitive Man as Philosopher, New York, D. Appleton and Co., 1927. A standard work of the history of social thought, including sociology, is Howard Becker and Harry A. Barnes, Social Thought from Law to Science, available in a 3-volume paperback edition, New York, Dover Publication, 1961. A briefer introduction to the development of sociological thought proper is Nicholas S. Timashev, Sociological Theory, Garden City, New York, Doubleday and Co., 1955. Of studies mentioned in connection with the sociological penchant of looking under rocks, the reader may want to look into Robert Preston's Man at the Top, a study in community power, New York, Oxford University Press, 1964, and the 2 English studies, Margaret Stacey, Tradition and Change, a study of Benbury, London, Oxford University Press, 1960, and Norbert Elias and John L. Scottson, The Established and the Outsiders, London, Francais and Co., Paul M. Harrison, Authority and Power in the Free Church Tradition, Princeton University Press, 1959, deals with the relationship between Protestant denominational organization and bureaucracy. Weber's book, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, is one of the most important works ever published in sociology. It has not only had a decisive influence on the development of sociology itself, but has been very influential among historians concerned with the relationships of economic and cultural history in the modern West. On the latter question, Weber's thesis on Protestantism and capitalism has been an important element of the critique of Marxist economic determinism. First published in German 1905, the work has published in English in 1930 by by George Allen and Unwin, London, and Charles Scribner's Sons, and New York. It's also available in a paperback edition, London, George Allen and Unwin, 1965. Episov, Max Weber, The Sociology of Religion, London, Methuen and Co., 1965, contains much important translated material and has an interesting introduction by Talcott Parsons. Emile Durkheim, 1858 until 1917, was the most important French sociologist in the formative period of the discipline. Around the journal Année sociologique, he gathered a large school of disciplines working in various sectors of the social sciences, a school that continued after his death. Durkheim's sociology stands in the tradition of Comtean positivism, is characterized by its emphasis on the subjective quality of social phenomena, its pioneering use of statistical data, its close alliance with ethnological work, and its ideological affinity with the ethos of French republicanism. A lucid view of Durkheim's understanding of sociology can be obtained from his programmatic work programmatic work, The Rules of Sociological Method, Chicago Free Press, 1950. A good overall treatment of Durkheim's work can be found in Harry Alpert, Emile Durkheim and His Sociology, New York, Russell and Russell Incorporated, 1961. Robert Camerton of Columbia University is, along with Talcott Parsons of Harvard, the outstanding theorist in contemporary American sociology. Merton's discussion of manifest and latent functions, along with other important statements of what he considers to be the functionalist approach to society, will be found in his social theory and social structure. Chicago, The Free Press of Glencoe, 1957. The concept of ideology was coined by the French philosopher Destutt de Tracy and used in a more strictly sociological sense by Marx. In subsequent sociology, however, the concept was greatly modified from its Marxian prototype. Vilfredo Pareto, 1848 until 1923, an Italian scholar who spent many years of his life teaching in Switzerland, is notable for the construction of a sociological system essentially based on the concept of ideology. Pareto's main opus is available in a 4-volume English edition under the title The Man and Society, New York, Harcourt, Brace and Co., a formidable chunk of cerebration to chew, though but well worth the thought of a courageous reader. Pareto's work Pareto's work was introduced to American sociologists by Talcott Parsons in the letters The Structure of Social Action, Chicago Free Press, 1949. The reader who does not fill up the Pareto's Look series prose itself will find a concise discussion of Pareto's most important ideas in Parsons' volume. The most important use of the concept of ideology in contemporary sociology is in the so-called sociology of knowledge, of which more is said in chapter 5 of this book. The basic reference for this book is Karl Mannheim's book Ideology and Utopia, published in a paperback edition by Routledge and Kegan Paul, London, 1960. Thorstein Veblen, 1857 until 1929, was one of the most colorful of the early figures in American sociology. His approach to sociology is characterized by its merciless debunking orientation, its concentration on economic factors in social development, and a strong affinity with radical critiques of capitalist society. The Theory of the Leisure Class, paperback edition, New York, Mentor Books, 1953, originally an analysis of the American upper classes, has become Veblen's most influential work in general sociological theory. The High Learning in America, New York, B.W. Hubes, 1918, is one of the most bitter sociological treatises if ever written, literally ripping venom on every page, an eloquent testimony to Veblen's savage disillusionment with American university life. The so-called Chicago School was a movement of sociologists grouped around Robert Park at the University of Chicago that produced a large number of studies of human society in the 1920s. It has had a lasting influence on urban sociology, community studies, and sociological analysis of occupations. A good discussion of Park's approach to sociology may be found in the Maurice Einstein, The Eclipse of Community, paperback edition, New York, Harper and Row, 1964. A good general discussion of the Chicago School may be found in John Mead, The Origins of Scientific Sociology, London, Tavistock Publications, 1963. The most famous American community studies are the two investigations into the life and ways of Muncie, Indiana, undertaken by Robert S. and Helen Lynch just before and just after the Great Depression. Middletown, New York, Harcourt and Brace and Co. 1929, and Middletown in Transition, New York, Harcourt, Brace and Co. 1937. A worthy successor of the Lynch determined digging below the veneer of community ideology is Arthur J. Fiedig and Joseph Benjamin, Small Town in Mass Society, Princeton University Press, 1915, 1958, paperback edition by Double the Encore Books, a wide journey through the underside of the social structure, a rural community in upstate New York. Daniel Lerner teaches sociology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His book with Lucille W. Pefner, The Passing of Traditional Society, paperback edition, Chicago Free Press, 1964, not only gives an excellent sociological view of current developments in the Middle East, but is of most general importance in its theory of the modern mind as emerging out of older tradition patterns. Concerning chapter 3, for better or for worse, the writer of this book must bear the blame for the most ideas in this digression. However, his thinking on these matters has been very strongly influenced by the teaching of Albert Schweitzer and some ideas of Maurice Halbwach. Concerning chapter 4, there is a huge literature on stratification in contemporary sociology. The reader might profitably begin looking into this literature by turning to an anthology, Reinhard Bendix and Seymour M. Litsett, Class and Status and Power, London Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1954. The same author study, Social Mobility in Industrial Society, London, Heinemann, 1959, can be read in conjunction with D.V. Glass, Social Mobility in Britain, London, Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1954, Ralph Dahrendorf, Class and Class Conflict in the Industrial Society, London, Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1959, invaluable both for the authors on theory of class conflict and for his sociological critique of Marx. William I. Thomas was an American sociologist who, together with Florian Zanicki, wrote the gigantic study of immigration entitled The Police Peasant in Europe and America, the first part of which was published in 1919, Boston, Richard G. Berger. Many of Thomas' contributions to sociological theory are found in footnotes and appendices of this monumental opus, a charming, if not always convenient place for such contributions. This study, incidentally, marked by the beginning of a primarily empirical period in American sociology, the narrowness of which cannot be blamed on their Thomas or Zanicki. An interest but polemical criticism of this extreme empiricism is contained in the chapter in C.W. Mills' The Sociological Imagination, New York, Oxford University Press, 1959. Arthur Gehlen is a contemporary German social scientist and philosopher. Together with Helmut Zelensky, he has been influential in the renaissance of sociology in Germany following World War II. As far as this writer knows, none of his works is available in English at this time. Concerning chapter 5, Charles Horton Cooley was one of the early American sociologists, theoretical in orientation and strongly influenced by European thought. His most important work is Human Nature and the Social Order, New York, Charles Scribner's Sons, 1922. George Herbert Mead was probably the most important figure in the development of American social psychology. He taught for many years at the University of Chicago, and his most important work was published shortly after his death, Mind, Self and Society, Chicago, University of Chicago Press, 1934. Mead is a formidable author to grapple with, but essential for an understanding of the foundation of role theory. For recant statements of role theory and its more general implications, the reader may turn to following works: Hans H. Gert and C. White Mills, Character and Social Structure, New York Harcourt Brace and Co., 1953. Irving Goffman, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life, Garden City, N.W. Double and Carr, 1959. Anselm L. Strauss, Mirror and Max, New York, The Free Press of Glencoe, 1959. Goffman's highly suggestive analysis of the pressures of group therapy will be found in his recent book Asylum's Garden City, N.W. and Co. 1961. Max Sellers was a German philosopher also greatly influenced by phenomenology, who developed the idea of a sociology of knowledge, which he called Wissensociology sociology in 1920s. Although some of Sellers' works are now available in English translation, this is not the case with those most important of the subject. Karl Mannheim was a sociologist greatly influenced by Sellers. His most important work, Ideology and Utopia, already mentioned above, was published in Germany. Mannheim left Germany for England after the advent of Nazism and became very influential there in the academic establishment of sociology. The reader will find an excellent introduction to the sociology of knowledge in the work of Robert Merton, cited before. A more discursive treatment may be found in Werner Stack, The Sociology of Knowledge, London Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1958. Helmut Schelsky, who now teaches at the University of Munster, has written a number of articles on the religious consciousness of modern man that not only roused the interest of social scientists, but created a furor in theological cycles in Germany. Unfortunately, these are not available in English. Thomas Lackmin teaches at the University of Frankfurt, and a very suggestive German work of his on the same subject is to be published shortly in English. Tucker Parsons of Harvard University has become the founder of the most prominent school of sociological theory in America today. Parsons has set out to integrate the classical theories of European sociology with the theoretical approaches of other social scientific disciplines, notably anthropology, psychology, and economics. Parsons' system of thought, which has come to be known as the theory of action, is the object of widespread attention and debate in American sociology. Parsons has been a profile writer, but the most concise summation of his approach may be found in his The Social System, Chicago Free Press, 1951. His very interesting essays in sociological theory are available in paperback edition, Chicago Free Press, 1964. An excellent introduction to reference group theory and its broader sociological implications will be found in the work of Merton referred to before. The closest approximation to the understanding of reference group theory as a nexus between role theory and the sociology of knowledge suggested by the present writer can be found in a direction-giving article by T. Shibutani, Reference Groups as Perspectives, published in the American Journal of Sociology in 1955. Concerning Chapter 6, one of the best introductions to the methodological problems of the sociological enterprise is Felix Kaufman, Methodology of the Social Sciences, New York, Oxford University Press, 1944, which can be supplemented by reference to Journal Rex, Key Problems of Sociological Theory, London, Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1961. Parsons' discussion of the relationship between Weberian and Durkheimian sociology can be found in his already cited The Structure of Social Attention. part of Weber's writing on charisma can be found in Hans H. Goethe and C. White Mills. From Max Weber, London Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1948. Carl Mayer teaches sociology at the New School for Sociological Research. His work on religious sects, published in Germany in early 1930s, is not available in English. An acute and detailed analysis of the origins, ideology, and structure of those three religious sects can be found in B.R. Wilson, Sex and Society, London, Heinemann, 1961. Goffman's interpretation of the fate of being an inmate is found in his previously mentioned work Asylums. His concept of goal distance has been further developed in his encounters in Indianapolis, Bob's Merrill, 1961. George Simmel, 1958, 1858 until 1918, was another classic German sociologist. His approach to sociology is characterized by strong philosophical interest coupled with Catholic scope in his analysis of various sociological problems. Simmel has been regarded as a founder of the so-called formalist approach in sociology, continued in Germany after his death by Leopold von Wisse and others. The best anthology of Simmel's writing in English is Kurt H. Wolff, The Sociology of Georg Simmel, paperback edition, Chicago Free Press, 1964. Lewis Alcocer's interesting discussion of the functions of social conflict, London Routledge and Kegan Paul, 1956, is based on principles drawn from Simmel's writings on conflict. Johann Huizinga's provocative work, Homo Ludens, was published by Routledge and Kegan Paul, London, 1949. Maurice Nathanson, a former student of Alfred Sweats, now teaches philosophy at the University of California, Santa Cruz. A collection of articles by him has recently been published. Literature, Philosophy, and the Social Sciences, the Kharnichov, 1962. Concerning Chapter 7, the book by the present writer referred to in the next text is The Precarious Vision, Garden City, NY, Doubleday, and Co. 1961. In addition to discussing the implications of sociological thought from the viewpoint of Christian faith, the book also develops further some of the ethical problems touched upon in this digression, especially as these problems relate to the sociology of religion. Concerning Chapter 8, for important discussions of the role of sociology as a scientific discipline in the modern world, the reader may turn to Robert S. Lind, Knowledge for What? Princeton University Press, 1939, and to Florian Zanicki, The Social Role of the Man of Knowledge, New York, Columbia University Press, 1940. A recent statement on the same subject that is quite close to the viewpoint here presented, though it would probably not go as far as the present writer is in understanding sociology as itself belonging to the humanities, may be found in Edward I. Sills, The Calling of Sociology, in Talcott Parsons et al. Eds. Theory of Society, New York, The Free Press of Glencoe, 1961.